skimmer base. For skimmer base construction, we're going to need our pencil, we will need a ruler, and we need some tag board. First thing we want to do, if we look at our instruction packet, it's going to tell us to measure from the upper left-hand corner of a piece of tag board down 4 inches. So let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is my upper left-hand corner. I'm going to line up my paper's edge on 0 on my ruler, and I'm going to measure down 4 inches and make my mark. So I'll make my first mark. To get a line parallel across this, I need to go to the other side, and I'm going to line up along the edge. I'm going to make a mark pointing at 4. From there, I want to connect those 2 points that I had just found and draw a line straight across. So to do that, I'm going to line up on my first mark and my second mark. Make sure I'm good and level, and then I can draw my line going across. So right now, what I'm left with is a 4-inch wide large rectangle at the top of my construction paper or tag board. From there, I can then measure down my 11 inches for the length of my skimmer. I've set 0 on one side and 11 inches over here along the line I had just drawn, and I made a mark pointing to it. From there, I'm going to slide up to my top edge. I'm going to measure and mark at 11 inches. And what that's given me is 2 tick marks from the right edge of the page. Now these 2 tick marks I'm going to use to draw a line parallel to the other side of the surface. So I'm going to connect my 2 tick marks. I'll back up here. And now I have a 4-inch wide on either end and 11-inch long rectangle. To begin cutting out the rectangle, I'm going to need to get a pair of scissors from my tool cabinet. I'm going to start on the long edge. It's very important that to get a very even cut, make sure that I start and finish right on my line here. I can do that by taking my time while I cut and making sure that I point my scissors to cut down the line each time. And that'll give me a pretty even cut. Once I've done that, now I can just cut the remainder off the end here. Line up again, take my time making my cut. Now I'm left with my 11-inch square. Once that's done, I can now add my 2 lines that are 1/2 inch from each of these long edges here. So to do that, I'll start once again by measuring down from the left edge 1/2 inch. Move this so you can see. It's lined up. I'll zoom in here. There we go. So I've lined my paper's edge up right on 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to come down, measure and mark at 1/2 inch. If you notice on this ruler, these tick marks right here, there's quite a few of them. Those are 32nds, so do be careful that you don't mismeasure. I'm going to slide all the way to the right side, line up on 0. Measure and mark down my 8 lines to get to 1/2 inch. From there, now that I have those 2 tick marks, I can draw a line parallel to that long edge. Okay. If I didn't do these 2 tick marks, just like before, I would probably end up with a lopsided line. So there's one line 1/2 inch from that edge. I'm going to flip and repeat, do the same thing to the other side. Line up in my corner here, measure down my 8 lines, on one side, line up on my other edge, measure down my 8 lines to 1/2 inch to make my mark on the other, and connect the two. If you're having trouble with this part, one of the other tips that I've found is that if you put your pencil right on your pencil mark and slide up to it, sometimes it's a little bit easier. And I can draw my line going across. So now I have 2 lines that are 1/2 inch from either side. The last step is going to be to draw a line from the right side edge in 2 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to come down 2 3/4, and I'm going to line up right on the line I had just drawn. I'll zoom in here so we can see our measurement. Now if we look really closely, right here is 0, here is 2 3/4. I've put the 2 3/4 mark on my paper's edge. Okay, actually I'm a smidge off, there we go. Devil's in the details, as it were. If we measure over 2 full inches in 12 lines, that's 2 3/4, and I'm going to make a mark right at 0. From there, I can slide up to the top edge of my paper. I'm going to repeat and do the same thing yet again. Okay. Take your time, make sure you line up. From there, if I turn my paper, actually I'll just keep it the same. So here are my 2 marks, here and here. If I line up my ruler, my straight edge, my marks, and get my line going across. Okay. And then the last thing I need to do, if I back out a little bit, I just need to do a little bit of cutting and folding to finish the base. So all that is left is that I'm going to cut down this line here and this line here, and stop right before I get to that line that I just drawn. So to do that, I'm going to line up, get my scissors in the right spot, make sure I'm pointing down my line, and get a nice even sharp cut. And the big key is to stop right before you get to that line. Again, take your time lining up. When you rush, that's when you get sloppy work. Okay, good even cut. And now for my last step, I'm going to do a little bit of bending. I'm going to use the aid of the ruler's edge to get that done. So if I tried to bend this by freehand, what would end up happening is I could possibly end up on a good bend over here, and then this part could be off. So the easiest way to get a consistent bend all the way across the line is if I use the edge of my ruler. Typically I would suggest just laying it flat and hanging it off the edge of the table, but I don't particularly have that option. So let's see here, get lined up on my ruler and start folding up. Okay, so that's one side. I've folded right precisely on the line. I'm going to do that again on the other side. Take your time, line it up. And then from there, that gives us a nice sharp edge along our fold. The last fold, all we have to do is lay it on its back here real quick, and we're going to fold this down just a little bit. Right along that edge there. So you're left with this. There we go. So this should touch the bottom edge of the table. If you look right here, you can see it already tapers down a little bit. And this is the top surface of our skimmer base. Here's our side, and this is the underneath, or the belly.